Practical jokes and their consequences. Says, the story goes like this. In 1885, Rabbi Abraham Kook was appointed the Purim Gabbai, the one who would correct people if they, one of these, a Gabbai is just the person who facilitates the service. Okay. In the yeshiva of Volozhin, he delivered a remarkable impersonation of Rav Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, which is also known as Netziv, the Rosh Yeshiva at that time. Years later, when Rabbi Kook was the Rosh Yeshiva of the yeshiva now known as Yeshivat Mirkos Harav, Rabbi Berlin's great-grandson served as the Purim Rav and delivered a speech impersonating Rav Kook. Rav Kook listened and commented, "Now I am getting my due. The great-grandson is repaying me here in Jerusalem for what I did to his great-grandfather in Volozhin." Okay. Whether or not Rabbi Kook was upset by it, we're not getting involved in that, but he said, wow, it was what we call Mida Keneged Mida, Shitzatat, I made fun of his grandfather, he's making fun of me. Okay. Yeah.
Could that great-grandson have been Rabbi Gettinger?
No.
Wow.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
No, it could have been. No?
Unless if he was, I don't know. But he was, is he a great-grandson?
I think so.
Okay, could be. I doubt he was in Jerusalem, but it's if he was, then you'd have to call him up and ask him if it was him. Okay. During the period between Pesach and Shavuot, we are here right now, we observe certain mourning practices to commemorate the death of Rabbi Akiva students who were punished for not respecting one another. It's famous story says in the Gemara in Yevamot that they shalot nahagu kavod zeh lezeh. They did not honor each other appropriately, and so as a result, this is the time that we don't shave, we don't get haircuts, we don't get married, we don't listen to live music unless there's some reason, overriding reason. But it's normally those are the things that we don't do. We are allowed to get engaged. You know why we're allowed to get engaged? Because the rabbi said, I should engage my beloved, because otherwise somebody else will snatch her away. To which I always remember whenever I say that, when I was in Moncton, New Brunswick as the rabbi, and I gave that law over to the people. So Mr. Rinzler, I remember the name of it. Mr. Rinzler said, "Rabbi, if the woman is going to be that fickle, she's really not for you anyway." So he was not for that, grabbing her now so that she won't find somebody else.
I thought women did that.
So yeah?
I said women did that.
What?
You get an element, you want to get engaged to holding, but not men.
Yeah,
the other way around.
No, but men have to engage you in order to separate you from the rest.
I know. I understand that. I'm just making a comment that because the women did that, to grab it,
Oh, no, they tell them they're pregnant or something.
Well, not in the
I
was thinking.
God forbid.
I was thinking of that. Mm-hmm.
Well, my mother wouldn't say, let her rest in peace. She always said that the woman chases you until you catch her.
That is so
true. Usually my mother or my father said that. One of those two said it.
I agree.
Okay, so now practical jokes can be fun, healthy way to express friendship, but they can have negative effects. The victims can get hurt or something can get damaged as a result. Here's a few scenarios, and we'll see what's going on. Shira's friends are making a surprise birthday party for her, and part of the surprise involves, quote unquote, stealing her bicycle while she is at a friend's house. Is that appropriate? No, she's going to walk out from her friend's house, and she's going to say, oh, where's my bike? What a lousy birthday this is, okay? And she's right, she's going to give you a little pout, she's going to wander, and then finally they're going to say, it was all a joke. I don't know how long they're going to wait, but ultimately they're going to say it's a joke. You can try.
Oh, doesn't it work?
That door, I don't know if there's a door past that. There's no door in the kitchen, I know. Ask him to lower it. No, it doesn't.
It's not from here.
No, ask them in the kitchen just to lower their radio. Thank you.
Why didn't you
So what would you
put it
say?
closer so you won't be subject to that?
What would I say?
What would you say? Is the Shira, are they correct to pull that sort of shtick on Shira, or should they not do that? You're saying, Hendele is saying no. Hendele is quite consistent. So you're saying no. Why not?
Because even if she ends up laughing over it, there will be initial, when you lose something that expensive and you think you're going to have problems getting it back, explaining to your parents, whatever, it's not funny.
Okay? So because there's angst in it, you're against it. Maya, you want to say?
I would agree with that because,
Okay, so you're also against it.
yeah, like.
So anybody's
universal
for it.
bike.
There is no reason to build anxiety on anyone. That's not a joke.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah, you were gonna
And
say?
aside from that, they're doing something that looks like an Avera.
Oh, what's your Vera? Good, what's your Vera? Stealing, okay, good, okay, we're gonna get into this. What type of stealing? Because they're really not stealing.
It's Maratine, I mean, it's.
Marat Ayin, oh, interesting, okay, okay. What the I will proceed. Could also be Genevas Das,
That's right,
when I'm stealing your knowledge,
right?
okay? You think, in other words, I'm making you think something that's not true. That's Geneva Da'at, when I steal your knowledge.
Mhm.
So if I tell you the stock is good and I really know the stock is no good, and you either you invest or you don't, you can trust me. So then I've not only have I caused you to lose money, I've only caused you because I didn't invest the money, but I've stolen your knowledge. Again, I'm trying to use English for that, but it's, so that would be one. So you're right, there's the concept of stealing. Now, case two, at the end of every school year, the kids on the school bus hold a comedic skit on the last bus ride home that pokes fun at members of the bus. Most of the boys enjoy the skit, but there are a few boys who are offended. Should the boys continue this tradition? Now here, for those people who are
Traditional?
No,
No.
for those people, let's put it into common parlance. This is, do I have to be politically correct and not hurt somebody, potentially hurt somebody by what I'm doing? In other words, we're not, some boys there are always a few boys who are offended. So for the minority who are offended by what may take place, must we nullify the minhag of the custom of doing this on the last bus ride home? Really, it's a matter of, do the minority rule the majority? Do we have to worry about that? Should we be sensitive to that? And so, what would you say? This is what we deal with today, by the way, in a very real way.
Bullying.
I think that's in a way bullying,
Bullying.
Yeah.
Okay? And therefore, you would say
I would
no.
say no, it's not
Okay.
appropriate because everybody should feel comfortable to go in the bus and not be subject to some, a ridiculous type of show about that particular person.
Okay, so you're saying no. You're saying if somebody's going to be offended, you don't do it.
Not right.
You agree?
I agree.
Anybody disagree? Everybody's agreeing. Okay. Lisa convinced her younger cousin Benny, to glue someone's knapsack shut. Okay. Now you can only picture these because these are real cases. We just changed the name to protect the innocent. They accidentally used permanent glue, and now the knapsack is ruined. Now we're not asking, should she have done it? That's clearly no, because you don't do that. What we're asking is, who's responsible to replace the knapsack? Is it the one who did it, or the one who was told to do it?
No, it's Lisa.
Oh,
She
right.
instigated the whole thing.
The instigator should pay for, but
Maybe
where do we see
two-thirds.
that the
And
instigator
the
should
little
pay?
one should also pay a third.
I think half and half, because if she instigated it, the other one didn't have to follow.
Oh,
She's the older, and she should know better, and she shouldn't be influencing a younger child to do something wrong.
let's say this younger child was above 13.
Oh.
Does that change your?
Then they have to have some responsibility for it.
So then you would agree with Gola to say that it has to be split in half-half.
I don't know, half, but they should have some responsibility.
Some split. But if she's under 13, let's say the
I
child
think
is not,
a younger child has to learn too.
so you would say that if the child is under age, let's make this bar mitzvah. So still that child must pay. That's your holding, no matter what. That's you.
You know who?
Okay. But so what would you say to that?
I would say that both are responsible, and of course, I'm not talking about a 5-year-old child.
Oh, so there's a limit to where you would say no.
Yeah, a 5-year-old, below that, absolutely no. But if a person today, 10, 12, my God, you see, espérate un momentico, mamá. You see girls 12 years old riding on top of the boys in the car. Heck with the age.
Okay.
You already know what you're doing.
Okay.
You have to learn somehow. Mamá, estoy en la clase en
Okay.
el puesto ahora.
Punishment of
¿Me
some
mamá?
sort.
Say again?
Some sort of repercussions, whether it's.
Okay, so you want what? No matter what age, or does the age matter?
It should be, according to age.
Okay,
You know.
so
Something that the child can understand they did something wrong.
from what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, from what I'm hearing, for you make the age at bar mitzvah, that's when they have to take responsibility. Below, the guy is 12 years old, he's about to have a bar mitzvah, you would still not. Only a bar mitzvah. Okay.
May I make a slight comment on that?
Go ahead.
If we assume that the parents of the child, below 13 years of age, are responsible for the acts of the 13, or below that age,
Right.
still responsibility lies on the child, and of course, it has to be passed to the parents. They are responsible for his acts.
Okay.
But I still would not say, because you are under 13, you have less responsibility because you did it. Somebody tells you, jump over the cliff or push the other one on the cliff. Somebody's got to be.
But you're cut off. But you're making a cut off at, let's say, age 5, where they're not.
Definitely.
Okay,
I
so
even below 7.
we all have.
Still,
Good. So
they
we
don't
all.
know what they're doing.
So what I'm saying is everybody's agreeing there's a cutoff. That at one point, if the child has the ability to understand, you're saying, I don't care about the age. If he has an ability to understand,
Right,
he's obligated. Or if not him, the parents as in proxy. Okay. But if they're under the age of understanding, then you would agree that he's not responsible. Only that in this case, Lisa or her parents, whatever the case is going to be. Does anybody have anything else more to add?
I still will put some responsibility on those parents, if the child is 6, 7 years of age.
No, I'm saying that the parents would have to.
Even 5, they need to obviously learn a lesson.
Right.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So
So here-
some sort of appropriate.
Okay? Let's see what goes on now.
Glue Benny to the wall.
Say it again?
Glue Benny to the wall.
Okay. Here we go. The first source we're going to look at is Maimonides, and he's looking at the laws of stealing. So he says, he's looking at the purpose of playing a practical joke. So it says, Torah law prohibits stealing even the smallest amount. Can't even steal a penny, okay? It is prohibited to steal as a joke, or to steal in order to return it, or to pay for the item. It is prohibited, so that it is all prohibited, so that one does not become accustomed to stealing. Don't turn the page yet, Maya. Don't turn the page. Yes, sir. Okay? So I want you to understand Rambam here. We're giving a halacha. Okay? Halacha is normally very dry and simple. Okay? It says, he already said to us, Torah law prohibits stealing even the smallest amount. Period. Okay? And he continues, you can't do it as a joke. And then he gives a reason. It's all prohibited so that one doesn't become accustomed to stealing. If it's from the Torah that's telling me I can't steal even the smallest amount, I don't need a reason. Why is the Rambam suddenly giving a reason? That's the question we have to be bothered by.
Would it not just be that he's putting a fence around?
What's the fence? So,
Even
by the way,
for a joke.
let's go with the fence. What's he making the fence around? He already told you, you cannot steal even the smallest amount, and then it's prohibited to steal as a joke, even if you're going to pay for the item. Well, that's not
Even if
stealing.
you might think that there are extenuating circumstances, it ain't gonna work.
But is
Anything
that
that
from the-
looks like stealing, smells like stealing, is stealing.
Is it stealing from the Torah's point of view or from the
Not
rabbi's
necessarily.
point of view? And that's what the last line is. That's why he's coming to say, stealing is forbidden from the Torah. But when I start,
Even a small amount.
right, when I start doing something that,
Maybe that's a joke.
right,
But no.
all right, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the case.
that's a joke. But as a joke, so then when I'm going to pay back or I'm going to return it, that, like I said, really doesn't fall into stealing according to this. That is the rabbinic injunction kicking in, saying that we're not allowed to. But the Torah, if I would do it, if somebody would take my telephone and move it here or behind the screen where I wouldn't see it, and I'm looking, where's my telephone? That was a joke, Rabbi, it's right here.
Yeah.
No, but that's the same thing.
It's the same.
Same thing. So the Rambam is saying, according to the rabbinic injunction against stealing, that would fit. You just broke the rabbi's rule. According to the Torah, you didn't change anything. You didn't move anything. What happened was, by the way, when you picked up my telephone and you put it behind that screen and it broke, guess what? You picked it up, you have to pay for it from the Torah because you did it. Okay, so if you would have broken it in your frivolity, you have to pay for that. Okay, but it's not really stealing per se for the Torah's definition, because I didn't take it away. It's right there. You just didn't. I'm just playing a game on you. But that is rabbinic, and the only reason I can say that is because this last line is all prohibited, so that one doesn't become accustomed to stealing. That's how careful the Rambam was with his language. That every single word is important, and if you just fly over his words, you're going to miss the nuance of the halacha. Now we can turn the page. So according to the Rambam, stealing for the purpose of playing a joke is prohibited because it will lead one to actual theft. Yet, there was a practice in temple times that seemed to condone celebratory stealing. It says,
Afikoman.
Well, yeah.
Afikoman is, let's look at this. Okay? Because in the Mishnah, immediately after the completion of the service of the seventh day of Sukkot, the children would release their lulavs, and the adults would eat their etrogs. Now you just stole my etrog. I need my etrog to fulfill the mitzvah of lulav. It's the seventh day, fine. And I don't have to fulfill the mitzvah anymore, okay. But you should have no right to steal my etrog, and he eat it, right? You're stealing it. Yet it was accepted to do it. The adults, and the Tosfot explains, that the adults would grab the lulav of the children, and the adults would eat the etrogs of the children, and this did not constitute theft or a disruption of peace, because this was a common practice done out of celebration. So we have another definition going on here. A lot of things go into this, okay? If it's a normal situation and there's no disruption of peace, okay, so that seems to be an exception. This was the explanation of Rashi. That's how Rashi explained it. From here, we can learn that when the young people ride on horses to greet the groom and bride, and joust for sport, and sometimes tear each other's clothing or damage the horse, there is no requirement to reimburse, because this is a commonly accepted way to celebrate at a wedding. So
When's the last wedding you went to that had to?
Does it have jousting?
Yeah.
I'll give you if you think about our weddings today, people like to do this, where they take the black hat, they put some lighter fluid into the reservoir of the black hat, and they light it on fire so the person can dance with a burning hat without getting hurt. You have to go to more Jewish weddings. God willing, you'll. We have if you go into
I
Chicago.
have been.
You go to Chicago, yeah, no, it has to be the Orthodox wedding. I've never seen any other wedding but the Orthodox. But so if you go to
Or they smush the hat with the wine bottle.
I saw, but if they did that, okay, if they did that, or if they're dancing and somebody never gets hurt, all of these things are part of the normal situation, and therefore, if you damage the hat which you use somebody else's hat, so you don't want to use your own. So you use somebody else's hat, or you did the backflip with somebody and somebody got hurt doing this backflip with you, you are not responsible to pay the doctor bills because that's all part of the normal fun. That's accepted. It's accepted risk.
Are the Lubavitch, right,
Yeah.
just a question, a parenthesis here. Are the Lubavitch Orthodox enough for that or not?
Yeah, but somebody has to have.
Lubavitch.
Yes, somebody has to
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
do it though. So.
Yeah, because I've been to the
Okay.
weddings and,
Okay, I can't. But you've seen Crazy Dancing, right? Jumping over
Oh,
stairs.
yeah.
Okay, any one of those crazy.
Absolutely.
Oh, that. By the way, that's something else too. When they put the chaz and the kala on the chair and they're dancing.
You see it basically always.
You see that at bar mitzvahs already. You see that anything. That's everybody already. But when you see when the kid goes up, okay, if somebody again gets hurt, they hurt themselves, or God forbid if the chaz and kala actually get hurt, they cannot under any circumstances sue. It's over because it's part of it, and you allowed yourself to be it. You understood the risk. Like I said, it's accepted risk of the business. Okay, that's what you're saying. As long as it doesn't cause a fight, it's normal, and it doesn't cause a disruption of peace.
Yeah, well, maybe everybody ends up in the hospital.
Oh, but that's something else. Okay, which is, by the way, if you come to Purim, we dealt with this in Purim too. If somebody is drinking, and since Purim is a holiday, people like to imbibe a little too much in liquor sometimes. If they do something that is stupid, okay, still no, since it may be part of the normal risk of the holiday, not drunk out of their mind. That's ridiculous, okay? But if somebody is dancing a little too wildly, again, as part of the normal procedure, it could be under the guise of acceptable risk, and they again could not do anything. If you rip clothes, if you do anything like that, that's the point. If I'm jousting, and I rip somebody's clothes, or I hurt the horse, I crash the car, okay? All those things, I have to be very careful about what you can sue me for and what you cannot get me for. Okay? Is it part of it? Is it not? Okay?
Yeah, only seen that once.
Crashing of the car or jousting?
A guy who was dancing fell off a table, sustained a major fracture at Purim celebration at a Chabad. I have never seen a hat on fire.
Oh, yeah. You really have to.
I haven't been living wrong.
Go to YouTube, Google that. I guarantee you'll see it.
No, I will believe you.
Okay, but it's very interesting to watch. Okay, so now.
I lost my mother when she called me back.
Okay, there you go.
At 94, she must have seen
She must have seen it. Now, while Tosfot permit violation of certain interpersonal laws, when it is customary to do so, we find many limitations. One, from Rabbi Alexander Suslin, he said, Tosfot wrote that when we are riding to greet the groom and the bride, and the jousting and so on and so forth, he said, I have sometimes ruled it this way regarding incidents that occurred on the Shabbat when the youngsters play in the courtyard of the synagogue. And sometimes they hit each other and caused damage. As long as there was no intent to cause damage, that's when he would say there was, he would allow for that. Okay?
Accidents happen.
Right. Accidents happen. Again, it's acceptable risk. If, on the other hand, you wanted to do this, it was part of your kavanah to use that as an excuse, that already it's a different story. But if in the act of playing, and I always remember when I was in Onset, Massachusetts. It's a summertime community. I like giving the shout outs for all the millions of people who watch this. Okay. There were two kids who were coming on the corner. So one's coming from this, one's from this, and they're riding their bikes. Bang! They hit each other. One was next to the other. It was a horrible crash. But they looked at each other. And I remember how because I was watching this. And so one guy said to the other, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, you all right?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay, let's pull the bikes apart. Your bike's good? Yeah, yours? Yeah, okay. So I'll see you later." And they went. And I was thinking, wow. No, I was thinking, look at that. Look how beautiful youth is. Right. If that would have been two cars, you can guarantee they would have had to call the cops. They would have been swearing left and right. How you stupid could you be? Here, they both realized it was both their mistakes. It happens, it's going with life. And, have a good one. We'll see you later, because they all live in the same town. So, but it was such an innocent type of thing. When they grow up, they'll be those other guys.
That's the way it was when I was a child. People didn't sue each other.
That's what I'm saying.
They were sensible.
Right, it was acceptable risk. Okay, it's acceptable risk. On the other hand, if the guy would have known he was coming and trips him, then that's not acceptable anymore. Now you've done something wrong. Okay? So that's really what it is. That's what he was arguing. So now, the Ramah said, if people who grab from one another as they rejoice, there is no prohibition of theft, and this has been the practice as long as they don't do anything inappropriate. But here's the key words: as determined by the leaders of the city. So it's not something that you would say, I grew up, this is the appropriate way to steal somebody's bicycle. No. If it's a normal thing to do, and that's decided by the law, as it were, or the leaders of the community, your parents, then fine.
You're going to have to accept it.
Then it's within the boundaries. But once it's not, you can't claim, well, I thought it was appropriate. I'm sorry you didn't think that. And it was only a joke. No. According to the Ramah, there are rules here. It's not just anything. It's not just a matter of disturbing the peace, or if anybody got hurt, or if it's common practice. It has to be acceptable by all. Okay? By the leaders. So far, so good? Okay. So now, according to the Ramah, we're asking the question. The question on the top. According to the Ramah, any practice that involves harming others in the course of celebration must be with the approval of the leaders. How do you think that this could be applied nowadays to practical jokes? And finally, how do you apply this to discussion number one, stealing the bike, stealing a bicycle as a joke? Again, you have all these different things. You have the Rambam, who sounds very strong. You cannot steal under any circumstances, even as a joke, even if you're going to give it back. So according to that, it sounds like absolutely not. Everybody at the table was 100% correct. No. According to the other opinions, the question would be, is this normal practice? Was this an acceptable type of prank to play on people? If it was, then it would be permissible. So what really we're learning is very cultural by what we're brought into. Yeah.
I mean, aren't we the ones that set the standards for the cultural?
Yes, that's my point. So if our neighborhood decided, or if our community decided that type of practical joke would be acceptable, so then they haven't done anything wrong.
Okay.
If, on the other hand, our society, our neighborhood or society said it is wrong, then it would be stealing.
Okay. 26 years ago.
I was a young boy.
No. I was told that the Skokie Yeshiva wanted to watch a panel support group using a certain method for dealing with frustrations, whatever, and disappointment.
Go ahead.
I was asked to be part of that panel group.
Yes.
For years, I had been asking for a men's group to be started because I thought it was a wonderful way to,
Okay.
To start marriages.
Yes.
With the wife and the husband. Somebody who was setting the whole thing up asked me if I'd be willing to be part of the panel discussion.
Yes.
Sure. What time? Come on a day that they don't usually come over
Okay.
for stuff. And I showed up.
I know real.
Well, turns out everybody yelled, "Surprise!" It was an engagement party, a surprise engagement party for me.
26 years ago, she's remembering.
Well, they had to get you somehow.
They knew how.
Right,
But
yeah.
I felt cheated. I felt like, but, where are they?
Oh. Okay.
You won't react.
We have to
No,
discuss.
no.
Remember, millions upon millions of people have seen this, including your husband.
Oh, whoops.
So,
No, it has nothing to do with him.
no, but it's
I'm just saying that's
but that would be
stealing
acceptable.
that. Why would it be
But that is
acceptable?
because the community was allowing for that sort
Right.
of thing. That's the point. The fact that you may not think that is nice
No, I'm not saying.
No, but that's really
I
what
mean,
it
it
is.
was
The fact that you may have felt
But I
cheated.
was.
No, but Susie,
Yeah.
So the point is,
Find a way to get you.
Yeah, they got me.
Susie, the point is, if the community,
there early.
if the community, okay, let's go with this. If the community allows for that sort of thing, and they clearly did, so then it's acceptable. If everybody would have said, "Oh, how can you be so cruel?" then it would have been over. Then it would have happened. Okay, so that's really the question that has to be asked in this case. Is it normal in that community to play such a cruel joke, or not? I would guess not. By the way, I would think that in most communities, that sort of chicanery would not be acceptable, and it would have gone beyond the call of duty when it comes to pranks. But again, if you can get a community that does think that way, then they could get away with it. Now, you could also say the only way that the kids would have come up with that prank is because the community didn't have that sort of sick sense of humor. Okay? But
they were celebrating you.
no, not that. I'm talking about the bicycle. Let's get back to the bicycle.
I'm going back to
Yeah.
I forgot.
So that's one thing. So but it's like I said, it's two views. You always have to, in all of Jewish ethics, there's never black and white. There's always different sides. Okay, so you have to put all of those different concepts together, Genevis Das, peace of the community, so on and so forth, and then try to weigh out what is good and what is not acceptable, what is acceptable and what is not. And once you know how to do that, so then once you know the parameters, once you understand the parameters, from that point on, you can start figuring out what you will do and what you should not do according to Jewish law. But it's hardly ever just so clear cut, which is what he's trying to sensitize us to. Okay, so now comedic skits. It says, why does local tradition play a role in exempting someone from payment from damage during a celebration? Furthermore, why doesn't Rav Suslin consider local tradition when prohibiting intentional damage? So Rabbi Binyamin Zilber presents two possibilities as to the role of local tradition. First, local tradition defines the rules of celebration. Secondly, we assume that those who participate in the celebration don't mind that certain things will happen in the course of celebration. According to the first approach, leaders of the city ultimately determine which practices are valid to define the rules of the celebration. As such, Rav Suslin's limitation of intentional damage is an observation that generally the leaders of the city are not going to permit intentional damage. According to the second approach, the role of the leaders of the city is to determine what people mind and don't mind in the course of a celebration. The second one is a little bit more dangerous than the first interpretation, because now I'm asking you, the community, to decide what we should mind and what we shouldn't mind. So we call it mind control here. Okay, it's real governmental involvement in our life. So do you want the government telling us what is acceptable and what is not? And the truth is, many of us do. We want that. We want that objective ruling, if you will. Okay, where it's not just my subjective. I don't feel comfortable, because let's face it, whenever we're the butt of the joke, we don't think it's funny. Yet if somebody else is the butt of the joke, we can be rolling on the aisles. But the question is always, how would you feel if it happened to you? So the 7 elders, if you will, are the ones who have to determine, according to the second opinion, what is acceptable and what is not. According to the first opinion, it's just a matter of they'll ultimately determine and define what the practices are to define the rules of the celebration. So again, it's less of a role than the second one. Okay, so that's we have to understand. So now in the Rambam again, in Hilchot Deot, it says there are things that are prohibited because they have a hint of gossip in them, including one who speaks gossip in a joking manner, or pipilously, meaning that is not out of hatred. Okay, so that's a problem. Rev Shrir Gaon wrote that although there is no monetary penalty for embarrassing someone verbally, we can excommunicate the person for causing it, who caused embarrassment, until the victim is appeased appropriately. So we do have a way to deal with that. Today, you would just put all the news on the Drudge Report in comparison. So I've been hearing the whole day. The Drudge Report destroys people. For those who aren't...
People destroy themselves with their own actions.
So I'm saying they blame on the Drudge. Okay. This is logical because verbal embarrassment is more severe than embarrassment caused by getting injured. And there's nothing worse than gossip or slander that a person says about a friend. Now this is true. A person... Say it again?
What kind of friend is it?
If your community celebration tolerates emptying an AK into the air.
Also caca?
No.
Oh.
An AK-47.
Oh, thank you.
People can get severely injured or killed, which is a lot more than verbal damage.
No, but we're not talking about that.
I understand what you're saying.
So
when you're talking about what's acceptable in a community celebration.
But most people are not going to say that's acceptable.
Well, it depends on the community.
Not in a Jewish community. So.
Okay, let's deal with Jewish communities. I can't imagine other than the community will allow you to shoot bullets into the air and think that's cool. Okay, but it's like I said, this is very important because verbal embarrassment goes on and on and on and on and on. It never stops. By the way, the case in point is, of course, Monica Lewinsky, who 10 years ago was, because of her involvement with President Clinton, was apparent, according to her, she was greatly embarrassed. 19, we're finally hearing from her 10 years later. I don't know how, by the way, I don't understand
20 years.
She was not, 20 years later? Because she's 40 years old now, so I was trying to...
Really?
Yeah.
It's gotta be longer.
I was thinking, why 10 years?
It's 20.
20 years.
Yeah.
So 20 years later, we're hearing about her great embarrassment and how she was destroyed, and how she's really wants to commit suicide, so on and so forth. Now she wants to come out. And I was thinking, when I heard the thing about Monica Lewinsky, I was thinking, I haven't thought about her
In 20 years.
in 20 years. So I don't know why. I mean, things go on. It's yesterday's news. Today's news is tomorrow's fish wrappers. So, it was surprising to hear that she's still bent on that and she doesn't hold Clinton. Guilty. It was essential, Baruch Hashem. Okay, but she's claiming,
Yeah.
and by the way, everybody knows her name because she is a household name.
Yeah.
So now that she's back in the news, it brings everything up again. It shows you the power of slander.
Yeah.
Okay? Or Lashon Hara, it's true. Whatever they said is true. She did do it, no problem. But it shows how much power there is that the minute her name is brought up, that everybody has that flashback to the Clintonian era and so on and so forth. So,
But Rabbi, that during that time, she was not seen as she pretends now to be.
I don't want to get stuck on it.
Yeah.
I was just using that as the example.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, we're going by the rule of the community didn't see that, so geferla. You know what I mean?
He went to I understand, but he was impeached because he lied about that. So, I mean, it really brought the country down. Her part wasn't that much, but he killed himself on that one. But you're right. The community did make a decision on what it was, and they basically shunned her. Said you're worthless to me, so leave me alone. But that's part of the business. I mean, you do something like that, you can get caught. But the community, she wasn't asking the community what the permissible either. Okay, so it goes into what, again, we're looking at skits or jokes or anything like that. What would happen? So if somebody is on the bus, let's go back to the bus. Is it normal procedure to joke around about the people, or a Purim, again, a Purim skit? When we have Purim skits, we make fun of people. The person may be laughing, but are they really laughing, or is it just laughing because they don't want to cry? Okay, and by the way, if you really want to see this, go to the comedian who made it the most famous was Don Rickles. But most comedians, if you go out to the comedy clubs, comedy clubs, comedy club, they look in the audience to figure out who to make fun of. And hopefully that person will take the joke, but still it's quite embarrassing. Okay? But at the same time, following this rule, you walked into the place knowing that that's what they do. Don't cry over spilled milk when it happens to you.
Right.
Okay? So really, it's my responsibility not to put myself into that situation. It's their responsibility to follow the rules of engagement. Okay? Yeah, what were you going to say?
When someone becomes well known in a community or larger scene, they're not necessarily asking to be ridiculed, put down, joked about,
Right.
or whatever. Obviously, it does happen.
Yes.
And I guess it's part of the risk of being
Part of a larger community, you're saying?
part of being well known.
Yeah, but.
I'm sorry.
The thing is, if you walk into a situation where you know you may be the subject to be ridiculed, you're taking a risk.
But even someone who has run for some sort of office,
Correct.
or someone who's an actor or actress, or someone who's a rabbi of the Torah Center or something, that people know about, who has, on
YouTube, Rabbi Neville, the
right.
channel.
So,
the only ones who worth watching.
Do you realize the possible risk that's involved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not only that, but once you go into the public eye, okay, you have more of a responsibility to be careful, because the rabbi of the Torah Center, or any clergy for that matter, representative of God, has a responsibility that whatever I'm going to do, whatever I'm going to say, will be taken seriously by the news media, Rush Limbaugh, and all these other giants who are listening to this tape, and are going to, I can see Sean Hannity talking about tomorrow's news, okay? But you do have to be careful, because it is public, okay? And even when I do something privately, like Sterling, whatever his name was, okay? When he said his ranting to his girlfriend, which was supposed to be a private conversation, there's no such thing as privacy in today's day, okay? And it went out, and he was embarrassed. I don't know if he actually, you know what? I'm making a statement that I don't know is true. I'm not sure if he was embarrassed or not by the statement. Maybe he holds by the statement and he's not embarrassed at all. So you have to ask him personally. But we do have to be very careful about what we say. And the more we are in the eye of the people, the more careful we have to be. And for those who don't think they'll ever be in the public eye, they still should be careful, because you never know when you're going to be in the public eye. You know what I'm saying? God's eyes you're always in, but the quote-unquote eyes. But for the public, we never know when is going to be our time to be in the 15 seconds of fame. And when that 15 seconds comes, if we have something embarrassing in our closet, as it were, so then we have to be careful for that. So there's no such thing as I can just live in my Dell in my own private place and nobody's going to touch me. Certainly, the more public I become, the worse it gets. The more I have to be careful. But but that's my choice, to go public. When I record this, my choice is to go public, and I have to watch myself. Hopefully, I'm doing a good job with that. But it's a lot of politics that goes around the table. So I won't say the name that will start my going. But don't. And now, last case. But she told me to do it. And oftentimes, practical jokes involve someone who plans the joke and someone else carries it out. When something goes wrong, each person involved might blame the other. But who, according to Jewish law, is really at fault? The Talmud teaches an important principle. And it says like this: one cannot be considered an agent to commit a crime, since we say, if you are told to do one thing by the master, namely Hashem, and one thing by the student, who should you listen to? Obviously God. So you are correct when you said He's responsible. He should have known better. To say he listened to Lisa in this case, he listened to Lisa. That's her name.
Yeah.
Lisa. He listened to Lisa, and he used glue. Okay, it was the wrong glue. It wasn't what she wanted. It was a mistake. Nonetheless, you're responsible because I can't cause you to sin. I can convince you. I can do a lot of things, but I can't make you do what you're about to do. Okay, that's up to you. I may be a really convincing guy, but in the end, it's all on you. Okay? Now, while this Talmudic, that's what the Gemara in Kedushin says. So he says, while this Talmudic statement seems to place the blame on the person who carries out the crime and not the planner, it is important to note that according to the Talmud, this only applies to when we are dealing with two adults, above bar, above mitzvah. If the perpetrator is a child, the planner is responsible, at least morally, to pay. In other words, you can't get them in the court. You can never get them in the court because they didn't do it. But morally, b'dei shamayim, in the eyes of heaven.
Legally, that person would not be
Correct. If I convince you to do something and you do it, but you're a minor, you can't get me. You can't punish me. I didn't do anything. You did it. You, the minor, did it. But that's none of my business. But can I say, I didn't do anything? How many times have you heard that from your kid? I didn't do it. They did it.
They started.
Okay?
It just says right here that if the perpetrator is a child, the planner is responsible.
At least
Morally.
Moral.
But you can't get him to pay.
That's the criteria we should be judging.
No, that's what it means by bidei shamayim. That's bidei shamayim. In other words, bidei, in the hands of the court, we can't get the compensation. What do you want when somebody breaks your window? What do you want? You want the money. You want compensation. You broke my window. Leave me alone. Why should I pay for it? So we say, so the person says, I didn't do it. They, that person, but you instigated. So you should pay. I didn't do it. That person did. You can't sue me. God's going to get me? Ooh. Okay? That's what the flippant attitude is what people will have. But what we're saying, the Talmud is saying, that flippant attitude, God will get you. Because bidei shamayim, in the eyes of heaven, you're guilty. So really, morally, you should pay, but we can't force it. You have to come to do that tshuva on your own. Okay? You have to do that on your own. So then he says, furthermore, Rabbeinu Asher and Tosfot Rosh states that even when both the planner and the perpetrator are adults, the planner is not completely exonerated, and that if the perpetrator doesn't have the means to pay for any damage caused, the planner has a moral obligation, again, moral, to pay for the damage. So the conclusion is like this. This is from Josh Luke, there are appropriate ways to joke around, and there are jokes that can be insensitive or offensive. If we are not certain if a certain joke is appropriate, we should consult with our parents, teachers, rabbis, who may point out something we have overlooked. So always check out your practical jokes. If we think something might not be appropriate, we shouldn't ask others to do it instead. Okay? Don't get other people. When we are sensitive to the feelings and concerns of others, we can ensure that our celebrations and jokes are enjoyable for everyone. So if you're going to make fun, if you're going to have a cute joke at a Purim play, don't make it something that is specifically hitting on the individual. Rather have it as a global joke. We learned this before, you also shouldn't make fun of somebody's or a group's practices. So really, it's quite limiting to what we can make practical jokes or even the other jokes over. But it has to be something that, if we're going to make it, that you have a sense that a good sense that people are going to understand where it's coming from, the fun. But if you feel that it may be inappropriate, when in doubt, leave it out, as we say in Kashrut. When in doubt, leave it out. So also in jokes, when in doubt, leave it out. Okay? Very good.